All right, hi everyone. Thanks for being here. So I think some of you have probably heard me talk about artistic interventions before, but I find that they continue to intrigue and inspire. So I thought I would return to some of those ideas today. So when I was a child, my brother and sister would watch the movie Krull on a regular basis. The movie takes place on the planet Krull, where a beast with an army of slayers kidnaps a princess in order to marry her, as she's prophesied to choose a husband and rule the world with him. The beast lives in a spaceship called the Black Fortress, which resembles a barren mountain face. Every day at sunrise, this mountain spaceship teleports to a new location around the planet. Some days the fortress resides in a desert, others it appears on a glacial slope or emerges in a sunlit field. When contemplating this paper, I found the image of the teleporting fortress to be returning to me from some childhood archive. It came as I was considering artistic interventions and the ways they might be moving, responsive sites of pedagogy. As I mentioned, I love the idea of interventions, or playful appropriations of public space. Like the Black Fortress, artful interventions embed themselves in a landscape temporarily, yet also stand oddly in contrast to their surroundings as they purposely disrupt spaces by inviting unexpected encounters with materials, behaviors, or provocations. In my own work, these interventions are participatory, seeking to engage passersby in creative or imaginative acts. They often unfold as experiments driven by curiosity and wonder, fueled by questions like, what would happen if we set up an outdoor classroom in a public park in a metropolitan area? What if we invite residents to participate in a 1.5-hour free hand-building session and create small sculptures using local clay? Or what types of conversations might emerge as participants create together around a shared table? And what ways might they continue to engage if we invite them to contribute their sculpture to a collaborative installation along the trails of a public recreation corridor? And how will the installation change as participants visit, collect their pieces, or move them around? And what awakenings or new paths might unfold from these conversations, provocations, or invitations? In other instances, the projects are driven by a more focused sense of purpose. Like the Athens Home for Discarded Objects, a series of interventions on or near university campuses that sought to call attention to issues of waste and consumption by inviting participants to view a collection of discarded objects found in rivers and roadways, and then adopt one by giving it a name, place of birth, date of birth, and writing its story. This series of interventions took the form of domestic spaces, utilizing furniture or other found objects to juxtapose uncommon materials with the surrounding landscapes of outdoor corridors or institutional buildings. With their strangeness, their visual contrast to the habitual landscape, there's hope that these interventions will invoke wonder and invite a moment of pause from quotidian movements through the space. These ideas are inspired by historical traditions of engaging and playing with public spaces, inspired by works like Situationist Arrives, aimless walks around the city that challenge the steady flow of traffic from home to work and back again, or City Mind's Ping Pong Project, a network of plastic tubes installed throughout a London borough that enabled residents to shoot ping pong balls carrying written messages, thoughts, protests, or other musings through the tubes to other residents. Interventions such as these are temporary challenges to the prescribed look and function of a space. Through a practice of bringing unexpected materials, activities, and individuals together in a given space, they engage participants in acts that question, challenge, or reimagine perceived norms. Participatory interventions in particular invite individuals to actively play with space and ideas, utilizing everyday actions such as speaking, walking, or consuming as creative fodder. By reworking the form and function of these spaces, participatory interventions may facilitate dialogue around things like value systems, relationships, public space, or prescribed practices of being, which may inspire expanded ways of considering and relating to materials, environments, and people. So the interventions that I create exist both as works of art, like my own art practice, and temporary mobile sites of pedagogy. Like the Black Fortress, they move around to engage with new landscapes. As they move and intervene in these landscapes, they offer openings to reach varied audiences, creating opportunities to engage participants in what Elizabeth Ellsworth describes as unintentional, involuntary learning. Recognizing that participants may not enter the experience with the intent of learning, these interventions challenge pedagogical concepts of knowledge and compliance, seeking instead to invoke disruptions in normative environments that encourage discovery and transformative experience. Learning emerges through interaction with the other, with entities that are new, unknown, or out of context. So in this way, they may reignite the imaginative capacity, as Maxine Green would say, or offer new ways for participants to think of and engage with their creative practice. In her discourse on pedagogy, Ellsworth further advocates for experiences that awaken the senses and promote discovery, embracing an unknown trajectory for learning, allowing it to be revealed through interaction with the learning space. In the case of my own participatory interventions, a specific learning destination is not predetermined. Rather, materials are purposely put into spaces with open invitations to engage. The interventions become pedagogical through these invitations to explore, create, communicate, and collaborate. They're born from a belief that, as Donald O'Donoghue describes, quote, participation activates a shift in the one who experiences at the moment of experiencing, with the result that one is made different or becomes other than one was prior to participation. I see these acts as a type of moving pedagogy. Moving pedagogy shifts, bends, and morphs in response to new contexts and environments, engaging with an active flow of environmental and participant responses. The theme or underlying idea of each intervention may remain the same, a work in a series, but the materials, presentation, and discoveries reconfigure with each new installation. Moving from place to place, these interventionist acts may appropriate any space as a classroom and invite any participant to be a student. Integrating in and with the spaces, the intervention reconfigures to be with bodies in their becoming, present with the moment, and open to transformation in the course of learning, questioning, or discovering. As I explore these ideas in my own work, I also explore them with my students, wondering how the students might engage with similar practices and how the act of creating an intervention might also be an opportunity for learning. I invite them to explore the local community, to engage with issues they find important, and to experiment with contemporary art. Together, we also explore how these acts might enter into more traditional educational spaces and how they might extend the educational spaces, inviting students to become teachers while also learning from community participants. I wonder what other ways these art practices and teaching practices may merge and overlap. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to conceive of my classroom space as a site for intervention, musing at the possibility of transforming the space overnight. What if the students came in and the entire room had been transfigured into a living room? Perhaps a fireplace would play on the projector rather than a PowerPoint, the whiteboard and display walls covered in vintage wallpaper, and the classroom furniture temporarily replaced with sofas, armchairs, and comfortable reading furniture. A decorative rug could cover the institutional flooring, and fresh brewed tea might be ready upon entry into the classroom. Perhaps the creation of this space would serve as an invitation to read and explore historic literature, offering an opportunity to transport selves into different time periods or lives and connect with the histories of past teachers, scholars, or artists. Or perhaps the new landscape would serve as a backdrop for creative exercise, such as exploring the stories of meaningful objects in our lives and inquiring into the collaborative potential of working together to create with these materials. So these musings lead me to wonder what other moments in our everyday lives we might interrupt or playfully appropriate as a means of transporting students and participants to imaginative places, new openings, or expanded experiences of the world. So, thanks.